I think Alicia is actually going to take us away.
Okay, so hello everyone, my name is Alicia KR.
My name is Austin Lamont.
Jay.
I'm Philip.
Okay, so next slide, please. So our app name is QuiChef. The project objective or goal is to create a platform for professional connection for the people working in food and beverage industry. Next slide, please. So the reasons why it's an impactful project for our team is because it's a really important topic to work on, as professional connection is a major topic of concern for people working in food and beverage industry. And on top of that, our team members were familiar with the resources to work on, which helped us for our research and skill allocation. And also this project has invited productive and efficient collaboration among our team members. So here is the image on the right side describing why it's an effective project for our team. Next slide, please. So the potential impact of the project was approximate estimation of time, budget, and resources for the project, collaboration of the ideas of team members, diverse experience working together as a team, and most importantly, project management as a group. So I'm going to hand it to Austin.
Austin, you're muted, but.
So the scope of our project was the design and setup of our QuiChef app. It occurred over 36 days and about 186 hours of work that we committed to it. We produced 4 major deliverables: our WBS, which was the breakdown of the sprint and of each of our tasks, each of our deliverables. Our user research report, where we tried to gauge user needs and what they were looking for in an app like this. Our Mendix project and user stories, where we tried to match our user research with functions of our app, function points of our app. And finally, this presentation. For our WBS, we focused on breaking down our project into manageable chunks. These tasks that we have listed here can be divided up roughly into like administrative and meeting tasks and complex tasks that are kind of centered around the design of the app. For the administrative tasks, we tended to allocate smaller time periods because we were more confident about how long this would take. For instance, we might delegate like 2 hours to a meeting that we knew was going to be exactly 2 hours. But for the more complex tasks that were actually like the user research and the design, the user story design, we allocated wider sections of time so that our team could kind of work on them at their own schedule. Because we were trying to be realistic about our expectations. Everybody here is busy. Everybody has multiple projects and on top of work going on at the same time. So we wanted to be realistic about how much time we allowed our team to work on each individual section. Our WBS can be broken down into the design of the WBS itself, our user research summary report, our Mendix team project setup, and our design sprint presentation setup and development. As an example of how we broke down our tasks looking at the user research section, we first created and compiled a list of questions. We allocated about 4 days for that. We allocated 4 days for contacting our interviewees. We allocated about 6 days for conducting those interviews because everybody has their own schedule and we had to allot time for that. We allocated a few days for compiling our answers and for creating our summary. For our resources, our primary resource, of course, was our developers. We kind of anticipated that they were going to have a salary of about $60,000 based on research I did on Glassdoor. That breaks down into about $31 an hour for a 40-hour work week. We also allocated a budget for the purchase of computers at about $1,000 per computer, so about $4,000 total. We allocated a budget for our office and overhead, and that came to about $5,000. Furniture, about $1,500, and finally we allocated a budget for food and snacks for our team. Moving on to our statistics, we anticipated there was going to be a duration of about 35 days or 186 working hours, and a total cost of about $16,000 when you add up all the costs that we talked about in the last slide. I'm going to pass it to Jay for you look at our user research.
Thank you, Austin. Alrighty. So the demographics of interviewees range between 20 to 30 years old. Occupations held or seeking line cooks, chefs, and wait staff. Education include high school and higher education. So we interviewed about 10 people and only selected the things that stood out the most to us. So for example, one of the questions was, what are the current job search resources? And the response we got, LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor, Pouch.com, etc. Next slide, Austin. And so going more with the questions. Other questions we asked is what to look for when applying for a job. What type of management do you prefer working with? What is a good working environment? What makes a restaurant stands out? So these are the questions that stood out the most to us. And then in the next slide, Austin, go over the answers. So the feedback we got, so positive team with effective communication, competent management, appreciate their staff effort, acknowledge their work, motivated staff to grow and learn, constantly receiving training and skills development, introducing new items to the menu to keep it exciting. So really what we found, all the feedback mentioned above is extremely valuable. And then our platform will assist not only employees find the desired job that they look for, but also enhance the business internal operation as well. And then from here, I'll hand it over to Philip.
Thanks, Jay. So this is our list of our user stories planned for the development sprint. So as you see, this QuiChef team ideas. And the ideas are a detailed profile page, a restaurant page, homepage, directory, and contact page, and a blog page. Go to the next slide, please. So I want to highlight two of our user stories because I feel like they are the most important ones. The first one is a profile page. So as a user, we will want a detailed profile page of ourselves, profile photo, a photo album where we can showcase our work, and a section for our resume. As a developer, we need to create a About Me section, profile picture display, resume section, and a photo album section. Again, we want to create an application where people can professionally connect with one another. We believe this has everything one needs to connect with one another professionally. Next user story I want to focus on is the restaurant page. As a user viewing the restaurant page, I want to view the restaurant's history, photo for others users of the restaurant, the reviews of the restaurant, and a scoring system. As developers, we need to create a history background section, a user review, users' photos, and a scoring system. This will be great intel for anyone applying for a job. Users will be able to review and see photos of the workplace conditions, and we believe it is important so users can get a better idea of how the condition of the workplace is like. All right, so next we will have is our Mendix demo. Go to the next slide and next slide. So in our stories tab, we can view all of QuiChef team's ideas. This helps us stay on task and really create a workflow on what we need to get done. On the right side, we are able to see our team buzz. This is where we are able to update one another on what we achieve and done. And I enjoy this because it can really show the history of what we achieved and completed together. And then next, I'll be handing it to Austin.
Sorry. So we want to now look at what we learned from the project. And the first thing that we learned is that communication is key. We're in multiple time zones, and I'm across the country from the rest of the team. So of course we had scheduling conflicts, but we found that keeping one another in the loop, if we're running late or not able to make a meeting because of work or school, was absolutely vital. We also were able to keep each other in the loop by giving each other reminders of when meetings were about to occur or when deadlines were due. And we found that group text works the best for this type of communication because we're able to leave a kind of an asynchronous but immediate reminder or message to each other. We also found that setting small goals was the best way to get work done. Tasks were much more achievable and less overwhelming if we broke everything into smaller, kind of discrete tasks rather than trying to look at the big picture and tackle that all at once. We also found that clear documentation keeps everybody on the same page by clearly documenting documenting our expectations and the tasks to be done. We could easily just take a look at the documentation whenever we were lost or really not really understanding what's going on. Finally, hard deadlines kept expectations clear and gave us a definite sense of a definite kind of time pressure that kept everybody up to pace with the project. All right, guys, that's our design sprint, and we are QuiChef.
Okay, so can you tell me how many users you interviewed again?
About 10.
About 10. Okay. I appreciate that you interviewed people with a very diverse background, like including the restaurant owners as well as the chefs. I like the fact that you kind of created the user stories and figure out what are the pages you are. So those are the features that you want from the application. But I did find a disconnection in terms of presenting, you know, for example, when you present, you presented the Microsoft project. You know, I would expect you to present your user stories first, user research first, right? You should present what you've done and what are the, you know, what are the user, because user research is really what are the most important part of this design sprint. So you started with a Microsoft project, kind of like I was wondering where the user research, did you do any user research, right? So that is, so the order of the presentation does matter, and the, you know, the flow. I just have one question. Can you get back to the feature that you're going to develop for this application?
Can you guys see that?
It's not a user story, it's the feature. I think you have a slide on which pages you are going to develop.
Yeah, this translates to that. It's
yeah,
the same
I want
information.
this page, the first page. Yeah.
Okay.
So my question is, I think your goal is to connect the you know, the chefs with the best restaurant jobs, right? So where does that connection happen, and when? What are the features really help, or do you just display the information